people will. That's it. So it looks like we are live, Douglas. Thank you very much for joining me.
Good to talk to you, Les.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this conversation. We never, just to give people some background, we never met in person, but I believe Greg Cool is your friend as well, isn't it? Do you know Greg Cool?
Greg Cool, yes.
Yes.
I know Graham Cool.
Graham, yes.
Well,
Greg,
yes.
Yes.
Greg's his son, so I know both of them.
So that's how I yes.
But you picked it up from Graham's social media, did you?
Yes, I seen his post about you and about the book, and I was start looking at this, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy is kind of living the way I would like to be, in 30 years. So I said, I will try to make the conversation happen, and there we go.
Good.
I'm super excited. So when I was trying to do some research on you, it says that you are triathlete, you are runner, you are mathematician, and you just published was this your first book you published?
Yes, it's my first book. Yes.
So you published the book. Let me just get it right. Renascence Triathlete. That's a hard word for me.
Renascence Triathlete. Yes, and just came out about 2 weeks ago. So it's brand new, and a number of people are taking quite an interest in it. I mean, I'm not alone in my age group. There are quite a number of us in our 70s taking part in sport and enjoying it. So I don't want to make out that I'm unique in any way, but I think we are a group that is maybe not a great deal of awareness of. I'm at the start of a new generation, the baby boomers that were born immediately after the Second World War, 1946 in my case. And so we formed a sort of significant bulge as we've gone through life's stages, and we're now in retirement, and a lot of us are doing interesting things, being active, not just putting on the slippers and sitting by the fire, but doing things, and I'm one of many, but I hadn't really noticed anything written about people in the 70s participating in sport, being active in sport, maybe in the 50s or 60s. And I felt, I've been enjoying it, and I felt I could write a book just of my own experiences of what it's like, without any preconceptions from what anyone else has said. And it was also an opportunity for me to reflect on what is it that I enjoy about taking part in sport. What are the challenges? There are physical and mental challenges. As you get older, you have to adapt and modify, change how you do things. So what have these things been? And it's only when you try to write them down that you realize whether your thoughts exist. But they started coming out, and a book came from it.
So just cutting straight into it, what's your biggest secret of you being still able to do it, being over 70?
Well, there's no secret, but I think what is important is to exercise regularly, and to focus on quality of exercise. I mean, when I was younger, you would go out and you would thrash yourself, and you would go to exhaustion and so on. And you would recover, get a second wind, and continue. But I think you're less able to do that as you get older, and you feel less inclined to actually put out a lot of intensive effort. But you think more of relaxed effort and relaxed movement, and the enjoyment actually comes from doing your best possible in the context of what your capabilities are. And so I have actually, in writing the book, had to think what adaptations have I made? What do I do differently, and so on? And that has come out when I've started writing it down.
So do you think it's with the knowledge you've got now and the way you train now, do you think it would be a good idea to train when you've been younger? So if you could change your training like 30 years ago, would you apply the same principles, or they do change completely?
Well, I think there are a lot of different aspects to this. That there are people who have been active in sport and training seriously since they were, as teenagers or in their 20s. And there are other people who have maybe been active but not seriously into sport and doing a lot of training, who have taken up sport in later life in their 40s and 50s. And they're two very different kinds of people, because the first kind is someone who's got a lot of wear and tear and accumulated injuries and so on, whereas the others have been starting fresher, and often the latter group actually manage to continue on longer than the ones who've been doing it for a long time. But
this is not in your case. Yeah,
in my case, I was a runner, and I found that I could get soft tissue injuries quite easily, just in the calves and hamstrings and so on, from running on hard surfaces. So most of my training actually has been on soft surfaces, on grass. Orienteering was my main sport, and that is off-road, through not off-road, but it's off paths as well. And I think that is much kinder on the body. Although you might think it's rough terrain and more difficult, you've not got the pounding effect of running on roads and so on. And I think that was beneficial. But if running has been your main sport, obviously you get slower as you get older. Beyond 50, things begin to slow down. It's a bit like an old car. Bits begin to fall off. Things break down. You need repairs and so on. And I was spending more time in the swimming pool and getting better at swimming. And I sort of came into triathlon because I was cycling to work at that time as well. So I did a bit of cycling. I'd been a runner, and I was swimming fairly regularly. And it's very stimulating when you find yourself getting better at something, which compensates for slowing down in another area. So the triathlon has developed from branching out into broader activities. It's strengthened my upper body in a way that was never very strong when I was a runner. But swimming is a very good all-round exercise, and I've felt the benefit from having done that. And the outlet has been triathlon, where I've been able to swim and improve my swimming and concentrate on technique. I'm coaching at the local club, coaching swimming, and it's very enjoyable.
So you mentioned to me before, when we had the chat before, that you pick with your swimming when you've been 68, and it's just mind-blowing, because I hear a lot of people in the even 40s and 30s saying, "Oh, I'm too old now for starting something new." And tell me about this, because it's amazing.
Yes, well, I reckon my quickest times were when I was 68 or 69.
And when you started swimming, do you remember, did you learn swimming then, or it was?
Well, I've always been able to swim. I mean, I learned to swim. Well, I learned to swim in a river, actually, as a youngster. So I've always been able to swim, but I've not been a swimmer or a competitive swimmer at any time. I've been the wrong body shape. So I'm long and thin, and long legs and so on. And the tendency for someone of that shape is that the legs will sink, so that you're going like that rather than horizontally. But I've improved my technique a lot. I've got a bit more strength in my upper body, And as I say, I think I improved throughout my 60s, and 68, 69 was probably when I was doing my quickest times. And I've managed to hold on to that plateau reasonably well.
That's incredible. So there is no excuse really from getting better at any age.
That's right. You need to focus on your movement and your technique. And well, I found particularly with swimming that there's a big difference between a good swimmer and a less good swimmer. Good swimmers swim twice as fast as a weaker swimmer, even more than twice as fast. And they use less effort as well because they just have less resistance in the water. So you find to begin with swimming that if you double your effort, you don't go very much more quickly. So you have to find a sweet spot where you're going at the quickest for the least effort, and then focus on your technique and improve your technique. And for that same effort level, you can swim more quickly.
I think people who you train and who you coach with swimming, they are very lucky. Because it's just...
Well, the people I coach, I'm coaching the club, and it's adults I coach. So people who I can identify with, and people who can identify with me. They're in their 30s, 40s, 50s. And they're good, competent swimmers, although I wouldn't say many of them are natural swimmers and haven't been competitive swimmers. I mean, you can tell someone who's been a competitive swimmer in their youth, even although they've not been in a swimming pool for 20 years. If they turn up and swim a couple of lengths, you can tell right away that just from the way they move in the water that they're a swimmer, even although they might be a bit rusty. They're a swimmer. But yes, I try to get across my ethos with the group that I coach in that you want to get relaxed movement and swim effortlessly, because you're swimming for a triathlon. You're not swimming for a swimming gala. You're swimming so that you're doing your 750 meters or your 1500 meters, and when you get out the water, you want to feel fresh because you're going to jump on the bike and have to pedal hard. So it's a different kind of swimming. So I'm not coaching people to be competitive swimmers. I'm coaching people to be good, technically efficient swimmers who can swim at their maximum speed for least effort and then continue through a triathlon.
Awesome. So would you say that swimming at this moment is your favorite discipline, or?
Difficult to say. I mean, there are three disciplines. It depends what the day is like. I mean, a nice sunny day is perfect for a run and a cycle and so on. But swimming is the one that I do enjoy because it's very technical. There's so much to it. I mean, I was swimming yesterday in one of the lochs in the Trossachs. The swimming pools are closed at the moment, so but I get a weekly swim outdoors in one of the lochs, and very exhilarating. Very exhilarating indeed, and it just keeps you thinking about your stroke and doing it properly.
Especially now, isn't it? Like the water in lochs must be very cold.
It's quite cold. I don't know what the temperature is. I don't have a thermometer, so I couldn't tell you what the temperature is. But if you have the right gear, good wetsuit, I mean, I wear wetsuit gloves and neoprene socks, and so there's quite good insulation.
And do you manage to swim all year round? Or?
Well, in the past, I haven't. Last year, I kept going until the end of October, and that was the longest that I had, or the latest in the year that I'd been swimming. At really about mid-September, I'd been about as late as I've been before. But last year I was very pleased to get to the end of October, but didn't make a November swim. But this year, without the alternative of swimming pools, I've just been swimming every week. So I've now swum in November for the first time ever in Scotland, and in December. I think if you are swimming every week, you get accustomed to it, and it's fine. I think if I miss a week, it might be more difficult.
That's true. So this leads to my next question, because I'm super interested how you keep yourself motivated and what makes you to going. You said about the watching TV and sitting on sofa, and you don't doing this. You're putting yourself out there and you train. Is it you train for competition or you train to feel better? What's that?
I enjoy the training. It's recreation. It's not intense work. It's enjoyable. I think I'm certainly past the point where I'm training to get fitter and to get stronger and to have more endurance. I'm training to maintain what I've got, not to increase my fitness or anything, just to maintain my current state, so that I can do these things and enjoy doing them.
Okay. But you're still looking at your records and looking at how many prizes you won. You must be a little bit competitive as well.
Well, I like competition. I like events, because you'll know yourself that when you do a competition or an event, you're much more switched on than if you're training. Even if you're training and trying to replicate an event, it's never quite the same as doing an event when you're really switched on, and you have that adrenaline effect. And I like that. You're being ready, turning up at the time and place and doing it. It's almost like sitting an exam. You turn up at the point and you try and do your best. And I enjoy that. And I feel that I perform better in that environment than if I'm just out training. So I feel much more satisfied having a race. And that's what I've been missing this year, because I tend to do quite a lot of races because I enjoy them and I enjoy the feeling and the exhilaration that you get from taking part in events.
Do you have plans for next year? Do you put already some races in calendar or not yet?
Oh yes. You see, next year is an important year because I move up in age group.
So you're going to be youngest.
We have 5-year age groups, so I move into my next one, which is for the 75-year-olds. So the great thing about age group competition in sport and across a number of sports is that every so often, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, there's a new age group. So that is has a motivation to keep you going, and you'll be one of the young ones, rather than one of the older ones, which is always good. So
what you aiming for? Is there any world championships or European championships?
There's European age group championships towards the end of June in Kitzbühel in Austria, and there are world age group championships at October time. They're in Bermuda, and I'd quite like to go there.
Of course.
But you have to qualify. It's not automatic. You don't just decide to go. You need to take part in events to qualify.
Have you noticed it gets harder now? Do you see more people in your age groups going longer and longer? Yeah.
Yes, it does. It is getting harder. You think, move up in the age group, it will be easier. But actually, the others are moving up as well, so you don't get away from them. You only get away from the ones that are 4 or 5 years younger than you for a short while.
And how do you think it is? Why is it we are just basically knowing about the training more, so we can train better, or we are just healthier as a nation?
I think I think if you've been in the habit of doing these things and taking exercise, it's much easier. I think if you stopped for a long time, it would be more difficult to pick it up again. But I think nowadays people are healthier, more active. As I say, I'm not unusual in that respect. I know a lot of people of a similar age to myself doing similar things, and a number of them are a lot better at it than I am. But I think you have to look after yourself. Injuries take much longer to clear up, and so on. So you have to be careful. I think it becomes more and more important to warm up carefully and warm down after exercise and so on. And that's something I give much more attention to than I did in the past. I mean, in the past, when you're working, doing a full-time job, it's things like the warm-up that gets compromised because you want to get out and get going.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot more time now doing exercises, for flexibility and core stability than I ever did before. And I think there's a great benefit that you get from doing that. And I wished I'd done a lot more of that sort of thing, 30 or 40 years ago. But you think that that's taking time away from actually your training. But I think it's important to look at these exercises as an important aspect of the training in their own right, not something that you're squeezing in between going out for a run or having a swim, but actually focusing on spending a good bit of time, 2 or 3 times a week, doing a good program of flexibility and core stability exercises.
So what's your favorite? Do you do any strength training as well, in terms of like lifting some weights, or not necessarily?
Not very much, no. But that's just a personal thing. I probably should, but I don't. I find that I have a very good performance physiotherapist who looks after me, and I see on a regular basis. And I think I find that very beneficial, seeing someone for maintenance, not for treatment, but for maintenance, trying not to see her for treatment, but for maintenance. But I have to be careful not to say that I'm enjoying a particular exercise, because that suggests I'm finding it too easy and I'll get moved on to something else.
So what's this? What exercise is she? Is it she, or it's she, isn't it? Or,
yes. A lady called Anne who's very good indeed. But things like lunges and walking lunges are good for balance and core stability, and balancing exercises. And the dynamic stretching, I prefer the dynamic stretching to the static stretching.
So it's more like a ballistic thing when you swinging your legs, for example, or
yes, that sort of thing. Using a gym ball quite a lot. You seated on a gym ball, and just one leg on the ground, rotating your trunk. These sort of balance and rotation exercises.
So do you see those exercises bringing like do you do them only to prevent injuries, or do you see like benefits in your sport as well?
A big benefit in the sport. I mean, it improves your range of movements, and it's certainly important to be doing exercises that will cover the range of movements that you're going to be calling upon when you do your sport. So in terms of shoulder exercises and shoulder circling for swimming, the leg swings and so on for running, and so on, so that when you actually and build these into your warm-up, so that when you come to actually do the activity, you've already mobilized the muscles beyond the point where they will have to go, and that's certainly reducing the risk of injury. But I think most older athletes would say that they're never injury-free. You're always injured, and you have things that you're carrying that you are adapting and modifying for. But I think you have to work with them, not against them. If you work against them, you're waiting for them to go away, and they won't go away. You've got to just modify, work with them, treat them as your friends, the comfort that they're there.
That's interesting way of looking at this, because normally you really thinking about being injury free and completely not having them. Probably when I'm like almost 40, I'm trying to avoid injuries and at all cost. But then you're saying that when you are getting older, they will appear at some point. Is it right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how do you deal with it? Let's say you've got a pain somewhere.
Well, we've gone quiet.
Have we? Okay.
Jiggle the wires. That's better.
That's better. All right. So
good. Yes.
I was just saying. So you need to be very good in listening to your body, isn't it? Like, how do you know that injury is it's okay to do something with?
That's very difficult. That's very difficult. It really has to be intuition. I mean, there are things when you know that you're just aggravating something and you need to lay off and you back off. But there are other things that you can tell that are there, and they will just, they'll just go into the background. And I think the other thing in that context I found with triathlon that running is, I think, what I find certainly is the most aggressive of the disciplines. It involves more pounding on the body than cycling or swimming. It's fully load bearing and pushing off and so on. But if you've been swimming and cycling before you come to run, the body is really well warmed up, and I think that makes running easier. I find it makes running easier doing running in a triathlon after you've been swimming and cycling, rather than just going out for a run as the first activity that you're doing.
Okay.
So if there is something that's niggling you, by the time you come to start running, it's gone. At least that's what you hope.
It's amazing, honestly. There is something which we talk a lot at our club. I don't know if you hear about this. It's the Centurion Olympics. And this is the idea that you train all your life to, when you are 100, you still can do things like a regular things, like putting a luggage on the top in the plane, or walk the stairs or something. So
yes.
The way you're describing your training and the way you think about this, it's kind of preparing you for these things as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Another thing I should mention is mental strength training.
Okay.
There's a chapter in the book about the mental strength training, and I found that enormously helpful. And I came into it really by not by accident, but I'd had a significant surgical repair to my Achilles tendon, which sidelined me for really a couple of seasons. That was in my early 60s, and recovery process was quite difficult, particularly the mental recovery, because when you're running, you think, can I feel it? Am I hurting it? Will it break down again? And so on. And I've had help from a mental strength coach, Kim Ingleby, who was one of the therapists with the British age group triathlon team. And I've been working with her, and it was transformational.
Okay.
And I still work with her. She's my coach. She's a triathlon coach as well. And it is a lot of what I've been talking about is actually from the mental strength training and those techniques that have come through, about treating the niggles as your friends rather than your enemies. When you've got barriers and hurdles that are preventing you from doing things, don't try and climb over them, just try and move them to the side and marginalize them and so on. And it's extraordinarily effective just in terms of race planning and preparation and so on, and your race tactics. I don't mean tactics in the sense of how you race against other people, but tactics as to how you manage your own race. Because I think the important point that has been stressed as me as you get older is you're not comparing yourself with other people or what you may have done in the past. It's just taking yourself as you are in the present and trying to do the best possible within the context of the limitations or circumstances that are prevailing. And the satisfaction comes from feeling that you have had the best race possible given the circumstances in which you were doing it. And you can judge that. And it's not how you did against someone else or what your time was compared with 2 years ago or anything like that. And that's can be immensely satisfying, feeling that you've done the best you could do on that day in these circumstances.
Are those as this topic, because I really like it, the mental strength and mental game. Are you talking about this in the book as well? Do you give any tips how to kind of do this, what you just said?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is common sense, really, but it's recognizing it, and it is the discipline of the big discipline is actually writing things down. After a race, you're writing down. Well, in my case, I would write down 3 things that went well. Even if nothing went well, but find 3 things I could say that went well. And then not more than 2 things that I could maybe have done better at, or I would do differently the next time.
Okay.
But always there are fewer things that could be done better than had gone well, no matter how well the event had gone. So that it's keeping the positive mindset. But the important thing is writing them down, and writing them down that same day.
Okay.
Don't leave it till the next day. It's fresh in your mind. Because the memory plays tricks on you. When you think of an event a week later, you see it in a different context. The things that were really hard and difficult no longer seem so difficult, and so on. But it's identifying right away what was good, what could have been better, but also not just what could have been better, but what you would do differently the next time. And the idea is that through time, these things in the could be better column will move over into the went well column.
And are you coming back to those writings, or you just put them there and then you forget about them? Or it's like something...
you come back to them. They're there, and you can go back to them and see that keeps cropping up every time. I really need to do something about that.
And this kind of...
if you just if you do the same thing each time, you'll get the same outcome every time. So you've got to think, what will I do differently that could make a difference? And you've got to balance the risk of changing something against the possibility that making the change might make a big difference. And do you using this kind of journaling only for racing, or you do this like a daily? Because I know there are some people. I just use it for my sport, but it could apply equally well to any aspect of life, I suppose, or your hobby or activity. I think it's applicable in all sorts of ways, but I'm using it in relation to my sport.
Okay.
And it's stimulating. It keeps you sharp and keeps you trying to think, well, how could I improve this, and so on.
Douglas, it's great. We are just approaching. I know you are busy today, and I've got a couple of things to do. It was a real pleasure to talk to you. I would like to give those who've been watching. There's a couple of people watching us. Could you tell us how to get the book from you? Because I'm gonna get one definitely.
Right. Well, I just happen to have the book here. It's called Renascence Triathlete, and there's a website called renaissancetriathlete.com, which is for the book, and you can get the book from the website. But it's available from Amazon and main booksellers. It's an easy name to remember, Renascence Triathlete. My name's quite easy to remember as well, Douglas Wood. And you can pick it up quite easily. Certainly, Amazon's a good source, or the website renaissancetriathlete.com.
Awesome. I'm gonna put this link under this podcast so people can see it. Also, I know there is a one signed copy by you. So if
yes.
we don't know. I don't know how to do it. Like, if anyone wants a signed copy by Douglas and his book, if you comment under below and tell us why you need this book, then this book can be yours. So
that sounds good. Yes.
Awesome. Fantastic. Douglas, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and hopefully see you at some race next season.
Yes.
So
yeah. Oh, good speaking to you, Les. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.